creative instincts, as is shown by opening a lot of different companies. I've mentioned before, with everything from the phones to space travel. So he has been described by Time magazine as a leadership rock star. He's a figurehead for the Virgin companies now. He owns shareholdings in most of the Virgin companies, but doesn't actually run most of them. He likes, as I said, setting up the new businesses and then moving on. He's a management theorist in himself. He has wrote his own books, including Screw Business as Usual, and he has never read a book on management theory or HR or anything like that. Despite this, you can draw parallels with Hertzberg in that he believes that the work itself is a major motivating factor for his employees. And also, you can also draw comparisons with McGregor and his theory why, in that he likes to involve his employees in the discussions about where the business is going. As a recent trip, taking all his employees to his island, as shown. Furthermore, he also in line with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in that he believes that you can find the self-actualization, the employee will find self-actualization once he finds them the right role. He believes that everything before that will all lead to that. He has been described as a dream boss by 1 in 4 people in the UK from a survey who will think that he would be a dream boss. I'll now pass you over to Ashley.
Okay, so the next individual is one of the most controversial managers around. His name is Gordon Ramsay, and he is extremely famous for his full-letter outbursts and temperamental attitude. The first step on the ladder to becoming a successful businessman was when he completed a degree in hotel management. He trained along chefs such as Albert Roux and Marco Pierre White. He then got awarded 2 Michelin stars for his efforts within this time, so this inspired him to set up his own business. He named this restaurant Gordon Ramsay. This restaurant was then awarded 3 Michelin stars, so he decided to write a book called Passion for Flavour about his efforts, and it was around this time that he started to become the most highest profile chef of that time. Many years later, and after appearing in many hit TV shows such as Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Behind Bars, and the well-known Kitchen Nightmares, he now runs a string of successful restaurants around the UK to the US and Italy. Now, you don't get this type of success without being a good manager. He put a lot of hard work and determination into his business, and he has many ways of coaching his team. A few of them are, for one, teamwork. Now, he believes every successful manager must have employees that are willing to work in teams. He wants them to effectively depend on each other. He also gives them a sense of story to which they play an important part in. He believes this creates a feeling of belonging to a group. He makes them perform to the highest standards, lets them do work without supervision, and he's very strict, but he coaches and delivers well. Communication. Now, he might be known for his foul-mouthed and aggressive ways, but he knows how to communicate with his staff. He tells them what he wants in simple, clear instructions. Feedback. He excels at giving his employees negative and positive feedback, and he insists this results in a highly motivated workforce. And the last one is the boss. Now, he is your boss, not your friend. He believes companies do not succeed if they are friends with their employees. He's friendly, but takes a tough approach. He He believes this creates boundaries as there is only one man in charge. Now, the next quote, it leads from all them qualities, because if you have all the qualities of a good manager, it leads to loyalty. So have a persistent focus on team building and promoting from within has fostered a high level of loyalty, with 85% of staff from 1993 still employed by the business. Now this is interesting because it shows, although he is quite an aggressive, tough manager, the employees still want to work for him. It does show that with success, a manager can also alter the techniques, because if you was to go in a job with anybody else that wasn't famous and the manager was to speak to you the way he speaks to his staff, you would probably leave. He also uses reverse psychology. He tells his employees, if you want to leave, leave, but they will stay with him because they know what a successful manager he is. Now, I believe every manager must follow a management theory, and I think Gordon Ramsay follows the humans relations approach. This approach is based on social relations rather than financial or incentives. He basically believes that people work best in teams, and this is what this theory is all about. He assesses and evaluates his employees. He gives appraisals quite a lot to make sure they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing. He sets team objectives. He believes this makes them become more professional and gives them boundaries. He also likes to, with a lot of his employees, tap into their drive to excel. It makes them feel valuable and important. This, he believes, leads to increased motivation and increased productivity. I am now going to pass you over to Peter.
I'm going to talk about the founders of Google, who are Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They founded Google whilst they were still students at Stanford University quite some time ago. And Google is now one of the biggest multinational companies in the world. And whilst we mostly know it for its search engine, it's also involved with online advertising, cloud computing, and creating software. Google's often named the best place to work in the world because of its very different ways of dealing with its staff. It's got very different offices all over the world that incorporate different styles. They've got a lot of freedom, a lot of access to things such as gyms, cafes, different activities, vending machines all day long, free coffee, whatever they want, they basically get it. And a lot of the engineers are offered time outside of work to research their own projects. So Google bases a lot of the work on what their staff does, and the only way they can move forward is by using their engineers to create new ideas, because they base themselves on creativity and things like that. They're very forward-thinking people. Everything they need to do has got to be new, the best thing, before anyone else has it out, and that's what the staff are all trained to do. Google base their staff training on they've got to be free to do whatever they want. They've got to be free to express themselves how they can, how they want, and that's why they hire very creative people, and they go through various training processes, but they tend to pick people who they believe are going to bring something different to the company. They base their management styles on Theory Y, which is letting their employees be independent and letting them roam free basically with the work. They don't micromanage their employees because they prefer them to be creative and take ownership of the work, and that's how they create new things, because they feel like they've got a personal responsibility to create new and interesting things to keep the company moving and working. The managers want to make sure that everyone enjoys doing the work, because the most important thing is making sure that they enjoy what they do so they stay on with the company, because a lot of the employees are there for the long haul. They don't just come in and go, they're always there to stick by them and do whatever they can for the company. The Theory Y basically puts into play that work should be as natural as play, and Google tries to emphasise that by making the office as homely as possible. So it doesn't feel like they're going to work, it feels like they're on a day out basically most of the time, because they've got free roam to do whatever they want. Most of the time is spent working, but they do tend to split it like 50-50, 50's done work, but 50's done doing what they want to do, which is mostly research for their own projects, because that's what they choose to do, because that's what they have their interest in. They make sure all the staff have different qualities to make sure that different things are always coming in, but they need them all to have a similar goal to make sure that they want to keep the company moving forward. And I'll now pass you on to Anissa.
So Sir Alex Ferguson is a Scottish football manager and player who's managed Manchester United from 1986 to 2013. Now, the time at Manchester United has led Sir Alex Ferguson being regarded as one of the most successful and respected managers in the history of the game. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson, he's got many management styles which he uses. Now, as a manager, he's very determined about his players in ways such as preventing media leaks about his players, to knowing that his players can and they will win a game. He also uses a very sensitive approach to his players. Now, he does this by telling his players to work hard and stay fresh. Now, he organises a 7 AM training session for all his players each morning. Now, as a manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, he leaves no room for criticism on the training field. Sir Alex Ferguson, he also believes in loyalty, and he's very strong about that. He will never discuss individual players in public. He believes that as long as a player knows about it, it should stay indoors. Sir Alex Ferguson's management style is more about building the player up than knocking them down. He also communicates really well with his team players, and he does this by going through visions, values and strategies. He also assesses his players' performances, so his players know and they feel appreciated and more motivated. And also, when a player does well, he congratulates them with a well done, which also helps the players feel motivated. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson has a famous hairdryer treatment technique, and this is basically where he believes that there's no point criticising a player forever, because none of us like to get criticised constantly. He believes that right after the football game, he points out his players' mistakes, and then that's it, it's done. They can just concentrate on the next game. Now, there's Sir Alex Ferguson, as a manager, he uses two management theories. One of them are human relations approach. Now, this theory is about caring for your employees, knowing about their interests and their needs. So, as a manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, he takes an interest in his players and cares for them, which positively leads his players to motivation. He also provides his players with a high level of training, which leads them to develop more skills. Now, once they've developed their skills, they can use them and they can enhance their skills on the training field. So that helps Sir Alex Ferguson as well as a manager. He also supports his players by giving them feedback and support. Now, this is good for the players because they know what areas they're doing good at, which areas they're doing quite poor at. So they can use this to their advantage to improve on their next game. He also makes the players feel that their manager cares for them, and this will lead them to perform better. Now, the trait theory also applies to Sir Alex Ferguson because he has a desire to lead. He is very confident and he has always believed in his leadership style. He is also very honest and open, which makes him a really good manager. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson has managed Manchester United from 1986 to 2013, so that is a really long time. So he's got a really good background knowledge of the football business, which he can then use for his players, and they can use that on the training field. So, as we have shown, different managers have different theories and styles, but each work in their respected professions. Thank you for listening. Is there any questions?
Michael, I was just wondering, how old were Richard Branson when he first set up his business?